Hello, it's Miss LaRose. This project video is for creating tissue paper texture art. And for this, I am going to be creating the word art on this regular piece of paper. You could, however, do shapes, designs. You could cut out a shape and do this technique on that. I'm going to do two different versions. For the video, I'm going to show you the process on the word art, and then I have another example at the end where I did the same technique on a heart cutout. So decide what you want your design to be. Mine is just going to be a word, and after you know what your design is going to be, you're going to need to make little tufts of tissue paper. And how I do this is take a little square of tissue paper and I pinch it at the bottom so that it looks fluffy at the top, and I'm going to make a bunch of these. So the more you have, the more interesting it looks. I want you to create a couple for each part of your design at least. I think I probably made 200 of these little guys. So just keep doing this process until you have enough, and if you need to go back and make more, you can. So I made a bunch. These are all of my pieces, and I'm going to use them to stick to my design. I'm going to outline a small section to begin with and just start sticking them into the glue. When you get started, you might have to hold them up a little bit until they stick in the place where you want them to be. After you get a couple on there, they'll start to support one another. They'll just lean on each other instead of falling over. And as you get the hang of adding them, you can start putting glue on a larger area and work with a bigger space at a time. I prefer to start small until I get the hang of something, and then once I understand what I'm doing, then I can work in a bigger space. So that's kind of the method that I would like you to do as well. It's easy to get out of control if you don't practice something first. So I'm just going to outline my first letter and stick all of these little tufts next to each other. I like to switch up the colors. However, if you only have a few colors and you want to do a solid color part of your design, you could just use one color on one of them. I switched it up for the whole thing, but I could have just done my A all pink and my R all teal. But I decided I like it better multicolored. I also use a pencil sometimes to help press the pieces in the place where I want them to stick if I can't put enough pressure on with just my fingertips. And another thing that can be helpful is if you are trying to position things and you can't get it quite in the right spot, you can slide the little piece of tissue paper directly onto the tip of the pencil and press it on that way. So a pencil can be useful for this part of the project. You don't need to have one, but it can be helpful. Now that I finished one of my letters, I'm just going to speed through doing the process for the other 2 letters. And you might have noticed that sometimes I go back in and add a little bit of extra glue so I can fit another piece in to make my letter wider, or to add a little bit of extra color in another spot. Feel free to do that as well. And if you have a design that you do in this method, I do really want to see it, because I think they all look pretty cool. They almost have a sort of piñata feeling to them. They're very fun to touch as well. So when you finish it and it's dry, don't do this when it's wet, but when it's dry, just run your hand lightly over the surface of it. If you do it when it's wet, you might smudge it and move them around a little bit, but when it's dry, they won't move if you touch the surface of it. It feels really cool. And it also looks really cool. Now you could even turn this into a project to use as a gift for somebody if you wanted to. So maybe think about people in your life. Maybe you have a birthday coming up, or Mother's Day, or Father's Day after that. Maybe it could be a present to cheer somebody up who's feeling sad. I think that this is a very fun way to make something that you could give somebody. You get to decide when it has enough tissue paper on it, and then you just let it dry and it can be finished.